Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Zodiac Secrets in Tarot.com. In this episode of the Lady Magnate's Magic Podcast, we're diving deep into astrology. Grab your favorite cup of antioxidants, whether it's green tea, coffee, or red wine, and join us for this insightful exploration. Ancient Origins of Astrology Across Civilizations. Astrology has been intertwined with human history for thousands of years, arising independently in many great civilizations. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Babylonians and earlier Sumerians were among the first to systematically observe the heavens. By around 2000 BCE, Babylonian priests were recording celestial omens on clay tablets. They noticed patterns, for example, the appearance of certain stars or planetary movements coinciding with seasonal events and the fates of kings. These early stargazers divided the sky into constellations along the ecliptic, the sun's apparent path, laying the groundwork for the 12-sign zodiac we know today. For the Babylonians, astrology was a sacred duty, a way to discern messages from the gods. They focused on predicting events like floods, harvests, and political upheavals by interpreting planetary omens. Over time, their star lore grew into an elaborate system, with each planet associated with a deity, like Ishtar for Venus or Marduk for Jupiter, and each zodiac sign linked to myths and seasonal themes. In ancient Egypt, we find another fountain of astrological knowledge. Egyptian sky-watching was tied deeply to their religion and calendar. They divided the night sky into 36 decans, star groups that rose at regular intervals, marking the hours of the night. These decans were used to tell time and were thought to exert influence on earthly matters. By about 1st millennium BC, Egyptian astrologers had likely absorbed Mesopotamian influences and combined them with their own traditions. A famous artifact, the Dendera Zodiac, a carved celestial map on a temple ceiling, shows Egyptian depictions of the zodiac signs alongside their gods. Egyptians believed the stars and planets were divine beings or symbols. For instance, Sirius, the dog star, was sacred for heralding the Nile flood, and the planets were linked to gods like Horus and Thoth. Astrology in Egypt wasn't just for pharaoh's advisors. It was also used to choose auspicious times for ceremonies and building temples aligned with certain stars. In the Hellenistic Greek world, astrology truly blossomed into a sophisticated discipline. After Alexander the Great's conquests, 4th century BC, Greek scholars encountered Babylonian and Egyptian astrological lore and synthesized them. They added geometry, philosophy, and mythology into the mix, creating what became the foundation of Western astrology. It was during this era, c. 2nd century BC to 2nd century CE, that the zodiac was codified into the 12 equal signs Aries through Pisces, each 30 degrees of celestial longitude. Greek astrologers like Ptolemy wrote influential works. Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos set out rules that are still referenced today and described the traits of zodiac signs and planetary influences in detail. They assign the ruling planets to signs. For example, Mars rules Aries, Venus rules Taurus/Libra, etc. Established the system of 12 houses, linking sections of the sky to life areas, and described aspects, the angular relationships, between planets. Hellenistic astrology was deeply spiritual and philosophical. It was influenced by Plato's and Aristotle's ideas about a cosmos governed by divine order. Many Greeks viewed the planets as intermediaries between the supreme divine, Zeus or the Logos, and earthly life. Astrology was used to read an individual's character and destiny. The birth chart or horoscope originated here, and also to elect optimal times for actions. The Romans later adopted these practices enthusiastically. Every Roman emperor had court astrologers. Astrology became so prevalent that it was considered a scholarly science of the time, intertwined with astronomy and medicine. In ancient India, a rich astrological tradition known as Jyotisha, meaning science of light, was developing in parallel. Vedic astrology traces back to the Vedic period, at least 1st millennium BCE, and is even mentioned as one of the Vedanga, auxiliary disciplines to the Vedas. Early Indian astrology focused on the lunar mansions, nakshatras, 27 or 28 divisions of the sky based on the moon's nightly positions. Over time, especially after contact with Hellenistic culture, around the early centuries CE, Indian astrologers incorporated the 12-sign zodiac as well, adapting it to a sidereal system, anchored to fixed stars rather than the seasons. This became Vedic astrology or Hindu astrology, which persists strongly to this day. In India, astrology took on a distinctly spiritual flavor aligned with Hindu philosophy. The planets, grahas, were seen as cosmic deities or forces dispensing the fruits of karma. A person's birth chart, called a Janam Kundli, is read as a map of their karma and life lessons, essentially a blueprint of the soul's chosen journey. Indian astrologers developed their own techniques, such as the system of planetary periods, or dashas, and harmonic charts like the Navamsa, to time events and examine spiritual purpose. Culturally, astrology guided decisions on marriage compatibility, naming ceremonies, and auspicious timings for important ventures, muhurta. The enduring respect for astrology in India is evidenced by how even today, many consider it an authoritative guide, blending destiny with personal spiritual growth. In ancient China, astrology evolved in connection with astronomy, philosophy, and state affairs. As early as the Shang dynasty, 2nd millennium BC, the Chinese were recording eclipses and planetary motions on oracle bones, believing they reflected the mandate of heaven. Chinese astrology took a different path than Western, focusing notably on a 12-year cycle of animal signs, rat, ox, tiger, etc., which most people recognize today as the Chinese zodiac. According to legend, the Buddha, or Jade Emperor in other tales, called a race of animals. The order in which they finished determined the zodiac sequence. Each year, and also month, day, and hour, is governed by an animal sign with particular characteristics. Overlaid onto this is the cycle of the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and the concept of yin and yang, yielding a 60-year cycle of unique year signatures. In practice, a person's birth year animal, say, dragon or rabbit, is believed to influence their personality and fate, and astrologers also consider the combinations of month, day, and hour animals, a system known as Bazi or 4 pillars, for fuller life analysis. Chinese astrology is closely tied to Taoist philosophy. The idea is to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Emperors employed astromers to interpret celestial signs as omens of prosperity or disaster for the realm. Confucius is said to have respected astrology, advising that wise rulers act in accordance with the good or evil signs from heaven. Unlike Western astrology, which centers on planetary positions in a natal chart, Chinese astrology is often used for destiny analysis and compatibility. For example, certain animal signs are considered a good match for marriage, others clash. And for selecting auspicious dates for important events, choosing a wedding date, for instance. The Chinese system stands as a fascinating example of astrology's cultural adaptability. While the symbols, animals versus planets, differ, the core intent is similar: to glean insight about human life from cosmic patterns. Among indigenous peoples around the world, there have also been rich traditions linking the cosmos with human affairs, though they may not always resemble the formal horoscope astrology of Eurasian cultures. Many indigenous societies saw the sky as a living storybook of spiritual meaning. For example, various Native American tribes assign symbolic meaning to the moon's phases and to the position of constellations during the seasons. Some Plains tribes recognized a zodiac-like circle of constellations related to their sacred animals and myths, using them to guide life activities and ceremonies. In the Americas, the Mayan civilization in Mesoamerica developed one of the most sophisticated astrological systems. Mayan astrologer priests used two main calendars, a 365-day solar calendar and a 260-day sacred calendar, the Tzolk'in. The Tzolk'in was essentially astrological, composed of 20 day signs and 13 numbers cycling in combination. Each day sign, like wind, jaguar, or sun, carried particular spiritual energies and omens. Mayan astrologers would cast a baby's horoscope on the 5th day after birth, interpreting the day sign and number as indicators of the child's destiny or role, whether they might become a warrior, healer, merchant, or even a sacrificial offering to the gods. They also tracked the movements of planets like Venus, which was extremely important in Mayan astrology for timing events like wars or rituals. The rise of Venus as the morning star, for instance, was considered an omen of significance. Similarly, the Aztecs, successors in the Valley of Mexico, utilized a ritual calendar with day signs and an astrological worldview. The famous Aztec sunstone is essentially a cosmological chart depicting the eras of creation and the calendar wheel of day signs. The Aztec sunstone, or calendar stone, on display in Mexico City, carved with intricate symbols of time and cosmos. Mesoamerican cultures like the Aztecs and Maya used such calendars in an astrological manner, believing each day and period carried spiritual significance. In many indigenous and shamanic cosmologies, the boundary between astronomy and astrology is fluid. The sky is not a cold, distant expanse but the home of ancestors, spirits, and teachers. For instance, Australian Aboriginal peoples have star lore where constellations relate to dreamtime stories that guide moral lessons and seasonal knowledge, like when to harvest certain foods. Polynesian navigators read the stars for ocean travel, but also wove them into origin myths and guidance from the gods. Among Native Americans, some traditions identify birth totems or guardian spirits based on one's season of birth or associated stars. Even if these systems don't use planetary positions in the same way as a Greek horoscope, they share the astrological essence, seeing human life as embedded in a larger, meaningful cosmos. The movement of the heavens is viewed as a grand cosmic dance that humans are a part of, not apart from. During the Islamic Golden Age, medieval Middle East, approximate 8th to 12th centuries, astrology was ardently studied and advanced by Muslim scholars. After the fall of the classical Greco-Roman world, the torch of astrological knowledge was carried by the scholars of the Middle East. Baghdad, the intellectual hub of the Abbasid Caliphate, housed translations of Greek astrological texts into Arabic, and scholars like Al-Kindi, Al-Bimaysir, Abu Mashar, and Al-Biruni wrote extensive treatises on astrology. These works often blended the Hellenistic astrological system with Islamic cosmology. For example, astrologers in the Islamic world identified the planets with the prophets and angels. The planet Mercury was sometimes associated with Archangel Gabriel, Venus with Archangel Anael, etc., and sought to understand how the planetary cycles fit into Allah's creation. There were specialized branches like medical astrology, linking planetary positions with health and diagnosing illnesses, and astrometeorology, forecasting weather and natural events. Islamic scientists also refined astronomical tables, the famous Tolden and Alphonsine tables, to improve astrological calculations. However, astrology in the Islamic context had to walk a fine line. Orthodox theologians were wary of anything that seemed to predict fate with certainty, as that could conflict with trust in Allah's will. Notably, thinkers like Avicenna ibn Sina and Averroes ibn Rushd critiqued parts of astrology, distinguishing between its use as a natural science, studying cycles and effects, versus deterministic fortune-telling, which they cautioned against. Despite such debates, astrology remained popular at courts from Persia to Andalusia. It influenced literature. Astrological imagery abounds in Persian poetry and even architecture. Some Islamic buildings were laid out with cosmic alignments. Through Moorish Spain and Crusader-era contacts, this enriched astrological knowledge filtered back into medieval Europe. Medieval and Renaissance Europe inherited and further developed astrology thanks to these earlier cultures. By the 13th century, European scholars had Latin translations of Arabic and Greek astrological works. Astrology became part of the quadrivium for advanced studies in universities alongside arithmetic, geometry, and astronomy. Learned figures like Thomas Aquinas grappled with astrology's philosophical implications, generally concluding that the stars incline but do not compel, leaving room for free will under divine providence. Renaissance magi and scholars like Marsilio Ficino and John Dee embraced astrology as a divine science, often in conjunction with Hermeticism and alchemy. Every king or queen had an astrologer. Queen Elizabeth I relied on Dr. Dee for choosing her coronation date and advising on political matters via the stars. The Medicis of Italy patronized astrologer physicians for medical advice. Astrology provided a unifying worldview, the belief that the cosmos had an intelligible order that mirrored earthly order, the principle as above, so below. This principle resonated strongly until the Enlightenment. By the 17th and 18th centuries, as modern science emerged, astrology was gradually dismissed from academia, branded as superstition or pseudoscience. Yet, it survived in popular culture and secret circles. In the 19th century, new spiritual movements, like Theosophy, revived interest in astrology, and by the 20th century, astrology found a mass audience through newspaper horoscopes and the New Age movement. Thus, an unbroken thread links the most ancient star priests of Babylon to the contemporary astrologer casting a chart on a computer, a continuous human fascination with finding meaning in the movements of the heavens. How astrology is believed to work. Metaphysical perspectives. Why would the positions of planets or stars have anything to do with our lives on Earth? From a metaphysical and spiritual perspective, astrology is understood not as a set of mere superstitions, but as reflecting profound cosmic principles. Different spiritual traditions and astrologers explain the workings of astrology in slightly varied ways, but several common themes emerge. Cosmic energy and vibration. In spiritual terms, the universe is a web of energy. The heavenly bodies, stars, planets, the sun and moon, are not just inert rocks or balls of gas. They are transmitters of cosmic energy or consciousness. At the moment of your birth, you essentially tune into the specific energetic frequencies of the cosmos at that time and place. Those energies imprint on you, like setting the tone or key of a song that will be your life. As the planets continue to move, they emit or reflect vibrations that can influence the subtle energies on Earth. For example, traditional astrologers might say Mars transiting in a certain way emits assertive or aggressive energy, whereas Venus transiting emits harmonious, loving energy. It's not a crude physical influence, but an etheric or spiritual radiation that souls and situations respond to. In this view, each planet carries a certain tone in the symphony of creation, and we are sensitive instruments resonating with those tones. Celestial archetypes. Astrology works through archetypes, which are universal patterns or symbols that recur in human consciousness. Each planet and zodiac sign embodies an archetypal force. For instance, Mars represents the archetype of the warrior, energy of action, assertion, conflict. Venus the lover, energy of attraction, beauty, unity. Saturn the sage or teacher, lessons, limitations, structure, and so on. The 12 zodiac signs themselves are archetypal personas or motifs. Aries the pioneer, Taurus the builder, Gemini the messenger, Cancer the nurturer, Leo the king/queen, Virgo the healer, Libra the diplomat, Scorpio the transformer, Sagittarius the seeker, Capricorn the authority, Aquarius the visionary, and Pisces the mystic. These archetypes are understood to exist in the collective human psyche, as psychologist Carl Jung suggested, and also outpictured in the cosmos. So, when astrologers say the moon is in Leo or Jupiter is in Pisces, they interpret it as certain archetypal dynamics coming to the forefront. Spiritually, one can view the planets as teachers or guides. Each planet's archetype challenges us or guides us to develop certain qualities. For example, a strong Saturn influence in your chart might push your soul to learn discipline and resilience, sometimes through tough trials, while a strong Venus influence invites your soul to learn about love, beauty, and relationships. Synchronicity, as above, so below. Many modern mystics believe astrology works through synchronicity rather than direct causation. Synchronicity is the idea of meaningful coincidence, that certain events line up in time not by direct cause-effect, but because they share the same meaning or essence. The famous Hermetic axiom as above, so below captures this. The macrocosm, the heavens, and the microcosm, human life, reflect one another. In this view, the planets don't force us to act or events to happen. Rather, the cosmic clock and earthly happenings are synchronized by a deeper order. For example, if you're going through a major life change, you might find that Pluto, symbolizing transformation, is making a significant angle in your chart at that time. Pluto didn't cause your specific circumstances, but its motion is coincident with the inner need of your soul for change. Both are woven together in the fabric of time. This idea was explored by Carl Jung, who was fascinated by astrology. Jung suggested that planetary movements and human psychology could be two manifestations of a single principle moving in parallel. From a spiritual perspective, synchronicity in astrology is evidence of a meaningful universe, almost like a cosmic choreography where the celestial dance and our personal dance move in harmony. It implies the universe is not random chaos. It's infused with purpose and connection between all things. Soul contracts and destiny. A metaphysical explanation popular in New Age circles is that before birth, the soul makes a sacred contract or plan for what it aims to experience and learn in this lifetime. As part of this soul contract, the soul chooses a specific birth moment and location, thus choosing a particular birth chart that will best align with its intended lessons and gifts. In other words, your astrological chart is not a random deal of cards, but a deliberate blueprint selected by your higher self. This blueprint encodes challenges, perhaps shown by difficult aspects like squares or oppositions between planets, that catalyze growth, talents, and strengths, shown by things like beneficial trines or your sun and moon sign traits, and even timing of key periods in life, as seen through transits or progressions. The idea of soul contracts means that fate and free will work together. The broad strokes of certain experiences may be destined, in the sense that your soul set them up, but how you navigate them is up to your free will. Astrology, then, is a tool to understand that contract. It can shed light on why you might have chosen certain challenges. For example, someone with a lot of Scorpio, sign of deep transformation, and heavy Saturn, karma, tests might be a soul that wanted to undergo profound rebirth in this life, perhaps to ultimately become a healer for others. Seeing one's chart this way brings a sense of purpose and personal responsibility. You are not a victim of the stars, you are a co-author of your life with the universe. Cosmic harmony and interconnectedness. Underlying all these perspectives is a belief that everything in the universe is interconnected in a sacred harmony. The movement of planets is like the ticking of a grand cosmic clock or the playing of cosmic music. Astrology is essentially the study of cosmic rhythms and how they coincide with rhythms on Earth, seasons, biological cycles, collective historical cycles, etc. In many spiritual traditions, planets were even seen as living intelligences or angels. For example, in Hermetic and medieval thought, the cosmos was a great chain of being, with God at the top, then archangels associated with planets, then humans, then animals, etc., all the way down. Each level reflects the level above. So the planetary influences were regarded as divine channels, the way by which the one mind or God coordinates events in the material world. Even if one doesn't personify the planets, modern spiritual astrologers often emphasize that astrology works by resonance, much like how the moon cycles resonate with tides and women's menstrual cycles in a physical sense. There are subtler resonances that link planetary cycles to emotional and spiritual cycles in our lives. Nothing is isolated. When you're born, you inhale the essence of that moment's cosmic patterning, and it stays with you. As you move through life, you remain in relationship with the cosmos. So astrology works by revealing the correspondences between the outer world and your inner world. It's a symbolic language that, when decoded, helps make sense of the seemingly chaotic events of life by showing they fit into a larger, ordered pattern. In summary, from a spiritual perspective, astrology can be seen as a cosmic mirror. The heavens mirror the state of life on Earth, and vice versa, because ultimately both are expressions of the same divine order. Whether through energy fields, archetypal meaning, synchronicity, or soul agreements, or all of the above, astrology's efficacy comes from tapping into the oneness of the universe. It's as though at the moment of birth, we each receive a map or script encoded in the positions of celestial bodies. This map doesn't lock us in rigidly. Rather, it guides, much like the weather guides a skilled sailor when to adjust the sails. By reading the cosmic weather via astrology, spiritual seekers feel they can better understand themselves and align with the flow of the universe instead of going against the tide. The building blocks of astrology, symbols and their spiritual meaning. Astrology is a symbolic language. Its vocabulary consists of several key components, each rich with spiritual and mythic meaning. The main building blocks are the zodiac signs, planets, houses, aspects, elements, and modalities. Let's break each of these down. The zodiac signs, 12 signs the zodiac, is a belt around the sky, divided into 12 equal signs named after constellations. In Western astrology, the cycle starts at Aries at the spring equinox and goes through Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Spiritually, you can think of the 12 zodiac signs as a wheel of life or a hero's journey in 12 chapters. Each sign carries distinct lessons and energies. Aries, the ram, is the spark of life, representing courage, initiative, and the power of new beginnings. It's the archetype of the warrior or pioneer, teaching about independence and self-assertion. Taurus, the bull, embodies stability, sensuality, and value, the archetype of the earth spirit or builder, teaching how to cultivate resources, enjoy the pleasures of the material world, and establish security. Gemini, the twins, represents duality, curiosity, and communication. The messenger archetype, think Mercury/Hermes, teaching the importance of learning, versatility, and connecting ideas and people. Cancer, the crab, symbolizes emotions, home, and nurturing. The Great Mother archetype, reminding us of the power of intuition, care, and the need for emotional security and roots. Leo, the lion, radiates creativity, leadership, and self-expression. The king/queen or divine child archetype. Leo's lesson is to shine one's inner light, to lead from the heart, and also to learn humility alongside pride. Virgo, the maiden, stands for service, purity, and mastery of details. The archetype of the healer or craftsman. Virgo energy teaches refining oneself, healing others, and finding sacredness in work and daily routines. Libra, the scales, is about balance, partnership, and justice. The diplomat or lover archetype. Libra's spiritual lesson is in understanding harmony, seeing through another's eyes, and creating beauty and fairness in relationships. Scorpio, the scorpion, delves into transformation, mystery, and power. The alchemist or phoenix archetype. Scorpio energy is about diving deep into the shadows to rebirth into light, confronting taboo or hidden truths, and wielding emotional power responsibly. Sagittarius, the archer, aims for wisdom, expansion, and truth. The philosopher or gypsy archetype. It urges the soul to explore beyond boundaries, physically or mentally, seek higher truth, have faith, and maintain optimism on the quest for meaning. Capricorn, the goat, represents ambition, structure, and mastery in the material world. The wise elder or builder archetype, sometimes depicted as the sea goat climbing from ocean depths to mountain peaks. Capricorn teaches about responsibility, perseverance, and achieving tangible results, as well as the spiritual wisdom of integrity and patience. Aquarius, the water bearer, signifies innovation, freedom, and the collective, the visionary or rebel archetype. Aquarius brings lessons of thinking outside the box, valuing individuality while serving humanity, and ushering in progressive change. The age of Aquarius is often associated with a coming era of enlightenment and community. Pisces, the fish, embodies compassion, spirituality, and unity, the mystic or dreamer archetype. As the last sign, Pisces dissolves boundaries. It teaches surrender to a higher will, empathy for all beings, and the understanding that we are all connected in the great sea of consciousness. Each person's birth chart contains all 12 signs, but the signs in which your major planets and angles fall describe how those planets express themselves. For example, Mars in Cancer will express the drive, Mars, in a caring, protective Cancerian way, whereas Mars in Aries expresses drive in a bold, direct Aries way. In a spiritual sense, the zodiac signs show the styles or costumes your soul wears to learn its lessons. They also correspond to different life themes and even body parts. As an old axiom goes, Aries rules the head, Taurus the throat, down to Pisces the feet, which reflects the idea that the human being is a microcosm of the cosmic order. The planets and luminaries in astrology. Planets include the Sun and Moon, often called luminaries, plus Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the modern additions Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And some astrologers use asteroids and other points too. Each planet is like a player on the stage of your life, with its own character and role. The Sun symbolizes your core self, identity, and vitality, often likened to the spirit or divine spark within you. It's the hero of your chart, representing your central purpose and creative force. The Moon represents your soul, emotions, and subconscious patterns. basically your inner world and instinctual self. It's tied to memories, family, and the nurturing you give and seek. Mercury corresponds to the mind, communication, and reasoning, the way you think, learn, and express ideas. Venus governs love, attraction, beauty, and values, how you relate, what you find pleasurable, and your sense of harmony, both in relationships and aesthetics. Mars governs drive, willpower, and aggression, how you assert yourself, your passion, and even how you handle conflict or pursue desires. Jupiter stands for expansion, faith, and opportunity. It's the guru or benefactor, showing where you seek truth and how you experience growth, luck, and abundance. Saturn stands for structure, discipline, and life lessons, often called the taskmaster. It reveals where you face tests and the work needed to achieve mastery and wisdom. Spiritually, Saturn's influence, though sometimes challenging, helps you build inner strength and integrity. Uranus signifies rebellion, change, and awakening. It's the force of sudden inspiration or upheaval that breaks old patterns to usher in the new. Uranus energy is linked to innovation and the drive for liberation of the soul. Neptune represents spirituality, dreams, and transcendence. It dissolves boundaries, heightens intuition, but can also cloud reality. Neptune's placement is where you seek unity with the divine, but also where things can be nebulous or idealized. Pluto symbolizes transformation, power, and rebirth, essentially the process of death and resurrection, metaphorically. It uncovers deep subconscious drives and has the effect of purging and renewing whatever it touches in the chart. Each of these celestial bodies was seen by ancients as either a deity or the instrument of deities. In modern spiritual astrology, they are often viewed as aspects of our own psyche or soul forces. For instance, rather than an external Mars god causing anger, one would say my Mars energy is strong right now, meaning my own inner warrior is active. The interplay of planets in a chart is like a council of gods within you, each with a message or function. When planets form certain angles to each other, aspects, see below, it describes how these inner forces cooperate or clash. Understanding your planets can feel like getting to know the cast of characters that make you you. Moreover, as the planets move in real time, transits, it's as if those characters revisit your life to trigger certain themes. For example, Saturn returning to its birth position around age 29, the famous Saturn return, is often experienced as a major period of growing up, taking stock, and realigning with your true path. The houses, 12 houses of the chart, if the signs are how and the planets are what or who, the houses are where. The 12 houses in an astrological chart represent different spheres of life. When you create a birth chart, it's essentially a circle divided into 12 sections, like slices of a pie, each house covering specific matters. First house, identity, self-image, and beginnings. The sign on this house cusp is your rising sign or ascendant, which indicates the persona or mask you show the world, and sets the framework for your whole chart. Second house, values, money, possessions, and self-worth. Third house, communication, immediate environment, siblings, and learning. Fourth house, home, family, roots, and emotional foundation, also one's inner security, often linked to the mother or nurturing parent. Fifth house, creativity, children, romance, and joy, essentially how you play and express your heart. Sixth house, work, service, health, and daily routines, how you manage the practical aspects of life and care for your body and duties. Seventh house, partnerships, marriage, and one-on-one relationships. It shows the qualities you seek in others and mirror in yourself. Eighth house, deep shared matters, joint finances, intimacy, transformation, sex, death, and rebirth. Sometimes called the house of spiritual alchemy, as it involves merging energies and confronting loss or regeneration. Ninth house, higher learning, philosophy, religion, travel, and wisdom. This house points to your quest for truth and meaning, long journeys both physical and intellectual. 10th house, career, public life, reputation, and purpose. It's the apex of the chart, midheaven, showing what you strive to achieve and how the world sees your contribution. 11th house, community, friendships, groups, and hopes for the future. It reflects your role in society or collective movements and your vision of a better world. 12th house, the unconscious, spirituality, solitude, and release. It governs things like dreams, secrets, karma, and transcendence. Often seen as the house of completing cycles and dissolving ego, preparing for renewal, back to the first house. Spiritually, the houses demonstrate that astrology is not just abstract personality traits, it's firmly rooted in life experience. Each house is like a stage or setting where the cosmic energies play out. For instance, having nurturing Cancer in your 10th house might indicate a career in caregiving or a public image that's maternal and supportive. Having revolutionary Uranus in your 7th house might mean unconventional relationships or attracting very unique partners who catalyze change in you. The houses connect the cosmic, planets, and signs to the personal and practical. They ensure astrology speaks to our real-life concerns from birth to death. In a metaphysical sense, you can think of the houses as the various arenas your soul has chosen to explore this life. Self, money, mind, family, love, work, partnership, etc., each one offering opportunities for growth and understanding. Aspects, planetary relationships aspects are the geometric angles between planets in the chart, like how many degrees apart they are. They indicate how the planetary energies interact within you. Key aspects include conjunction, 0 degrees, when planets are together in the same region of the sky. Their energies fuse and act in unison. This can be powerful. They amplify each other, though if the planets have very different natures, it can be intense or conflicting internally. For example, Sun conjunct Mars gives a fiery, driven personality, Sun's ego and Mars' assertiveness blended, whereas Moon conjunct Saturn may yield a serious, reserved emotional nature, Moon's feeling combined with Saturn's restraint. Opposition, 180 degrees, planets opposite each other across the chart wheel. This creates a polarity or tug-of-war between two parts of you or two life areas. The spiritual challenge of an opposition is to find balance and integration. For instance, an opposition between Venus, relationships, and Uranus, freedom, might manifest as seesawing between intimacy and independence, ultimately teaching how to have freedom within relationship. Oppositions often play out through other people mirroring that energy back to us. For example, I project my Mars and encounter lots of angry people until I own my own assertiveness. Square, 90 degrees. A square is a tense, dynamic aspect. The energies clash or challenge each other, requiring growth. It's like two parts of you are at cross purposes and must overcome friction to work together. While often experienced as internal conflict or external obstacles, squares are considered highly motivating. They represent lessons the soul is eager to tackle. For example, Mercury square Saturn could indicate early difficulty in communication, self-doubt in speaking or writing, that, once worked through, gives great mental discipline and wisdom in speech. Squares push one out of complacency and foster resilience and creativity. Trine, 120 degrees. A trine is a harmonious, flowing aspect. Planets in trine are usually in the same element, for example, both in earth signs, so they understand each other and work easily together. Trines show natural talents or support, things that come so organically one might take them for granted. For instance, Moon trine Venus might bestow an easy grace in social situations and a strong sense of beauty and art, emotional and aesthetic sensibilities reinforcing each other. Spiritually, trines can indicate gifts developed in past lives or simply areas where one is in alignment with oneself. However, because they are comfortable, one must be mindful not to become lazy in those areas and still make the most of the gift. Sextile, 60 degrees. A sextile is also a positive aspect, though milder. It indicates opportunity and potential that can be developed with a bit of effort. Think of it like friendly cooperation or a door that is unlocked, but you have to turn the knob. Planets in sextile complement each other, often in compatible elements like fire and air or earth and water. For example, Sun sextile Jupiter might not automatically make one famous or lucky, but it suggests that optimism and confidence, Jupiter, can readily boost one's identity and success, Sun, if actively tapped into. Essentially a spiritual opportunity for growth and magnification. There are other minor aspects, like quincunx, quintile, etc., but the above are primary. Aspects weave the chart together, telling the story of how your inner characters, planets, relate. They form the dynamics of your psyche. An easy way to visualize. Imagine each planet as a musician in an orchestra. Aspects are the relationships between those musicians. Some pairs play in beautiful harmony, trine. Some challenge each other in a dramatic duet, square or opposition, and some merge into one powerful note, conjunction. The aspects in a birth chart create unique chords that influence the melody of your life. Spiritually, understanding your aspects can reveal which energies within you need healing or balancing for hard aspects, and which energies you can rely on as innate strengths for soft aspects. Also, when transiting planets form aspects to your natal planets, they activate those natal patterns. That's why, for example, during a certain transit you might feel old conflicts resurface, transit triggering a square in your chart, or you might receive a wave of support for a project, transit making a trine to your Jupiter, say. Astrology, in this sense, provides a timing tool for when various parts of your soul's script are activated for growth or expression. Elements and modalities. The 12 zodiac signs are categorized by 4 elements and 3 modalities, which give additional layers of meaning. For elements, fire, earth, air, water. These are ancient metaphysical principles that correspond to states of energy. Fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, are energetic, enthusiastic, and action-oriented. Fire is the element of spirit and inspiration. It brings qualities of courage, creativity, passion, and sometimes impulsiveness. Spiritually, fire signs teach about living from the heart and intuition, trusting the spark of life. Earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, are practical, grounded, and sensual. Earth is the element of the physical, of form and substance. It confers reliability, patience, and a focus on the material world, like money, health, building things. Earth signs in a chart indicate where you seek stability and tangible results. They teach the sacredness of the body and the here and now, reminding us to bring heaven ideas down to earth. Air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, are intellectual, social, and communicative. Air represents the realm of thought and relationship. It fosters logic, curiosity, fairness, and idealism. Through air, we connect with others and exchange ideas. Spiritually, air signs are about the power of mind and community. They help one detach and see life from a higher perspective or through another's eyes. Water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, are emotional, intuitive, and deep. Water is the element of feelings and the subconscious. It offers sensitivity, empathy, creativity, and psychic receptivity. Water signs govern the ebb and flow of moods and the ability to bond on a soul level. They teach the lesson of compassion and going with the flow, as well as the transformative power of emotional healing. Think of water's ability to purify. Every individual's chart is a unique mix of these elements. If you have an abundance of one element and lack of another, that says something about your approach in life. For example, heavy fire and little earth might make someone full of ideas and initiative, but they may struggle with follow-through or practicality until they consciously develop their earth side. The ideal, as always in spiritual work, is balance. To have the fervor of fire, the stability of earth, the clarity of air, and the empathy of water all working in harmony. Astrology can highlight elemental imbalances and guide one towards activities that cultivate the needed element. For example, engage emotionally if water is lacking, or get more physically grounded if earth is lacking. 3 modalities, qualities cardinal, fixed, mutable. These describe the sign's mode of operation or how it expresses its energy. Cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, are the initiators. Each begins a season, spring, summer, fall, winter respectively in the northern hemisphere. Cardinal energy starts things, leads, and pursues goals. Cardinal signs are proactive and often take charge. Spiritually, cardinal energy relates to the power of action and manifestation, turning intentions into reality. Fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, are the stabilizers. They occur mid-season, holding the energy steady. Fixed energy concentrates, perseveres, and can be resistant to change. People with strong fixed signs are often loyal, determined, and sometimes stubborn. Spiritually, fixed signs teach the power of endurance and devotion. Once set on a path, they can achieve great depth and mastery, and they remind others to stay true to their values amidst change. Mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, are the adapters and changers. They come at the end of seasons, where transition is imminent. Mutable energy is flexible, resourceful, and open to change. It distributes and diffuses. Think of it as the bridge between seasons or between phases. Those with strong mutable influence are often versatile, empathetic, and sometimes indecisive or mercurial because they see many sides. Spiritually, mutable signs embody the principle of surrender and evolution. They show how to bend with the wind, learn continuously, and let go of what no longer serves as we move to a new cycle. In a birth chart, the balance of modalities reveals how a person tends to deal with life's circumstances. A lot of cardinal energy equals a go-getter who initiates. Heavy fixed equals someone who stands firm and might need extra push to change direction. Heavy mutable equals someone very adaptable but who may need to firm up commitments. Recognizing these tendencies can help a person seek equilibrium. For instance, if someone lacks cardinal energy, they might struggle to start projects. Awareness of this could lead them to cultivate assertiveness or partner with initiators. If someone has no fixed signs, they might find sticking to one course hard, so they could practice discipline and patience to balance. The modalities also play out in how transits affect us. Cardinal sign transits spur new beginnings. Fixed sign transits call us to consolidate or face resistance. Mutable transits signal times of adjustment and letting go. All told, the modalities are another layer that connects the cosmic pattern to life strategy, showing us how we can engage with energies best. All these components, signs, planets, houses, aspects, elements, modalities, combine to form the astrological natal chart. which is essentially a mandala of the soul. To an astrologer, reading a birth chart is like reading a sacred script or blueprint for a person's life. The rich symbolism provides insight on multiple levels: physical, psychological, and spiritual. It might reveal, for example, a predisposition to certain health issues and thus guidance on healing, inner conflicts to overcome for personal growth, latent talents from perhaps other lifetimes that can be awakened, and the soul's overall mission or lesson plan. For the individual, learning this symbolic language is like being handed a mirror that reflects not your outward appearance, but the inner workings of your being. Many find it a profoundly validating and awakening experience, to see written in the stars a confirmation of their deepest feelings and yearnings. Each component by itself, say just your sun sign or moon sign, is just one piece. The full chart is a complex, beautiful tapestry. And beyond the birth chart, astrology also includes forecasting, like tracking transits, progressions, returns, etc., which uses these same components to understand cycles of time in one's life. An example of a handwritten astrological chart showing the zodiac will divided into 12 houses, with planetary symbols and colored lines indicating aspects. Astrologers use such charts to interpret how the various cosmic energies, planets and signs and houses relate in a person's life. Notice in the embedded chart image, the circle has glyphs, symbols, around it. Those are zodiac signs on the outer rim. The planets are marked in the inner part, and lines crisscrossing the circle show aspects. Red lines often are challenging aspects like squares/oppositions, green or blue lines, typically harmonious, like trines/sextiles. This illustrates how all the building blocks come together graphically. Though it looks complex, each chart is essentially a snapshot of the cosmos at the time of birth. An astrologer meditates on this picture to derive meaning, much like a tarot reader looks at cards. It's a cosmic mandala unique to each individual, believed to encode the soul's journey. Astrology in modern life and spiritual practice. In contemporary times, astrology has experienced a tremendous revival. People across all walks of life are using astrological insight as a tool for self-understanding, guidance, and spiritual connection. While some engage with it playfully, reading horoscope columns for fun, many use it as a serious practice for personal growth. Here are some of the ways astrology is applied in modern life, especially from a spiritual or self-development perspective. Self-discovery and personal insight. One of the most popular uses of astrology today is as a mirror for self-reflection. Your birth chart is essentially a cosmic personality profile, and delving into it can bring aha moments of recognition. It can illuminate your strengths, talents, and positive potentials. Perhaps you have a grand trine that bestows creative gifts, or a sun in an air sign that gives intellectual prowess. Equally importantly, it sheds gentle light on your challenges or blind spots, those patterns that seem to recur or the inner conflicts that hold you back. For example, your chart might reveal a tendency toward impatience, say Mars square Mercury, or difficulty with boundaries, Neptune on the ascendant. By becoming aware of these traits, you gain power to work with them consciously. Many people find that understanding their planetary placements and aspects helps them accept themselves more fully. Instead of feeling something is wrong with me, they realize, this intense emotional nature is my Scorpio moon. It's part of who I'm meant to be. I can channel it positively rather than beat myself up for it. Astrology provides non-judgmental language for our qualities. Nothing in a chart is bad, but it might be challenging until mastered. In this way, astrology becomes like a wise counselor in your pocket. It validates things you always felt but couldn't articulate, and it points to ways to grow into your highest self. Journaling with one's birth chart in mind, or meditating on each planet's meaning in your life, can be a profound self-discovery process. Soul guidance and life purpose. Beyond just personality, many seek astrology for indications of their soul's purpose or karmic lessons. Modern evolutionary astrologers, for instance, examine chart factors like the moon's nodes, North Node and South Node, to talk about past life themes and the current life's intended growth direction. The South Node symbolizes traits and comforts your soul has already mastered, possibly in previous lives, while the North Node points to the new, uncomfortable terrain your soul aspires to in this life for its evolution. Similarly, placements like Saturn, often called the karmic taskmaster, and Pluto can signify deep soul challenges one has chosen to work through. By interpreting these, astrologers give guidance such as, your soul is learning the balance between independence and partnership, or you have a mission around communication and sharing knowledge. This resonates with people who feel a calling or a void. It can help articulate why you are here. Astrology also helps in times of decision or crossroads. For example, a client might be torn about career direction. Their chart might reveal a strong 10th house emphasis, public role is important, and a moon in 12th, needing a sense of compassion/spiritual meaning. The astrologer might guide them toward a vocation that fulfills both, perhaps working in a healing role that also has public outreach. It's not that astrology decides for you, but it offers symbolic clues aligning with your soul's intentions. Many consider an astrological reading akin to a spiritual coaching session. It affirms your gut feelings about what your heart or soul truly wants, even if your logical mind has doubts. In a world of infinite choices, astrology can point to what resonates with your core. Timing and cosmic cycles, transits, and moon phases. Astrology provides a powerful framework for timing. Just as farmers consult seasons and lunar phases for planting, individuals can consult astrological cycles for life planning. This can be as simple as following the moon's phases each month for setting intentions and releasing. For example, using the new moon to start new projects or make wishes, and using the full moon to culminate projects or let go of what no longer serves. Many spiritual practitioners hold new moon intention-setting circles or full moon release rituals, aligning themselves emotionally and energetically with the moon's cycle as a way to feel in sync with natural rhythms. On a larger scale, people track planetary transits, the current movements of planets, as they relate to their natal chart. For example, your Saturn return, around ages 29 and 58, is a famous transit where Saturn comes back to where it was when you were born. It often coincides with a period of maturation, major life choices, career change, marriage/divorce, moving, etc., and confronting reality. Knowing it's your Saturn return can frame those challenges as initiations into adulthood or elderhood, encouraging a proactive stance in taking responsibility for your life. A Jupiter return, every 12 years or so, is when Jupiter returns to its natal spot. These tend to be times of opportunity, growth, or a fresh chapter of optimism. For instance, many start new studies, travel, or expand family or business under Jupiter's blessing. People also watch quicker transits like Mercury retrograde, which happens 3 to 4 times a year. Mercury retrograde has become part of pop culture now, known as a time when communication and tech can go haywire, contracts might face delays, and misunderstandings abound. Spiritually minded folks use Mercury retrograde periods not to panic, but to slow down and reflect, double-check details, and perhaps reconnect with the past, since it's a good time to redo or revisit things rather than launch brand new ventures. By understanding these cycles, individuals feel more prepared and in tune. If you know Mars is transiting your 6th house of health and work, for example, you might consciously channel that extra energy into a new exercise regimen or tackling a backlog at work, rather than unconsciously just feeling restless and irritable for weeks. Electional astrology is another branch where auspicious times are chosen for important events like weddings, business launches, surgery dates. Some modern people do consult astrologers for this, believing starting at the right time gives a venture the best cosmic support. On a daily level, even the sign the moon is in on a given day is thought to flavor the mood. For example, moon in upbeat Sagittarius day might be great for learning or exploring, whereas moon in sensitive Pisces day might incline one to introspection or creative pursuits. Some plan important meetings when the moon or Mercury is in communicative air signs, or schedule a first date when Venus is strong. While one shouldn't become overly dependent on timing, life often forces action regardless of stars. Many find that working with cosmic timing feels like swimming with the current rather than against it, adding a sense of ease and flow to life. Spiritual development and healing. Astrology can be a valuable tool on the spiritual path. Beyond personality analysis, people use astrology to understand internal patterns that need healing. For instance, if someone notices they always sabotage relationships around the 3-month mark, they might find in their chart an aspect that suggests fear of intimacy or a past life wound around trust. For example, Chiron, the wounded healer comet, in the 7th house of relationships. Bringing that to consciousness is the first step to healing. The person might combine astrological insight with therapy, energy healing, or other modalities to work through it. In fact, a field called astrotherapy or astrological counseling exists, where therapists incorporate the client's chart to tailor the healing process. It can help identify core issues quickly. Astrology also dovetails with other spiritual practices. For example, one might work with chakra energies alongside planetary transits, like focusing on the throat chakra during a Mercury transit for better communication, or the heart chakra during a Venus transit for love. Some use rituals and crystals aligned with planets. For example, meditating with amethyst, a Jupiter stone, on Thursdays, Jupiter's day, to invite wisdom and vision, or performing a ritual to Mars on Tuesday, Mars Day, to gain courage to overcome anger issues. The archetypal nature of planets means they can be invited into meditation as guides. Someone struggling with boundaries might meditate on Saturn's energy, visualizing it as a wise old teacher granting them strength to say no and set limits. Furthermore, tracking transits can be spiritually reassuring. When you know, for example, that you're under a heavy Pluto transit, that's why life feels like an intense roller coaster of endings and beginnings, you can approach it more consciously, practicing surrender, perhaps doing shadow work, and trusting that this too shall pass, and I will be transformed for the better. In essence, astrology gives context to our dark nights of the soul and suggests what the soul might be learning. Many people report that even just validating there's a cosmic reason for a rough phase helps them find patience and meaning in it, rather than despair. Finally, astrology fosters spiritual development by promoting self-acceptance and compassion. When you see how everyone's behaviors might link to their cosmic blueprint, it can increase empathy. You realize that difficult coworker with a sharp tongue may have a fiery Aries Mercury they struggle to modulate. Or your overly cautious friend may have heavy Capricorn that makes them fearful of risks. This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it frames it in a way that encourages understanding and forgiveness. In turn, treating others and oneself with compassion and wisdom is at the heart of spiritual maturity. Connecting to divine order and the universe. Perhaps the most cherished aspect of astrology for spiritual seekers is the sense of connection to something greater. Studying the intricate correspondence between cosmos and life often fills people with awe. It's one thing to intellectually know we're made of stardust. It's another to watch the planets move and feel that their cycles are reflected in your very own life progress. Astrology can cultivate a profound feeling of being held by the universe, that our lives have meaning woven into the fabric of the cosmos. This can be deeply comforting, especially in times of uncertainty. It's as if the universe is conversing with us through symbol and synchronicity. For many, astrology has the effect of rekindling a sense of enchantment with the world. Modern life can feel very secular and disconnected, but when you start noticing, say, that every year when the sun moves into your 12th house, you naturally feel more inward and dreamy until your birthday. When the sun crosses into your first house and you feel reborn, you realize you are indeed dancing to cosmic rhythms. It's a bit like recognizing that your heart isn't beating to its own random drum. It's part of the great cosmic heartbeat. People often describe their introduction to astrology as an awakening. Suddenly, seeing that cosmic and personal are mirrors, they sense a divine intelligence at play. Whether one calls it God, the universe, the Great Spirit, or simply the mystery of nature, astrology points to an organizing principle behind existence. This realization can trigger or deepen faith. It also gives a language to communicate with that higher power. Some believers pray or set intentions in alignment with astrological events. For instance, during a Jupiter transit, they might actively give gratitude for blessings and ask for guidance in expansion, or during an eclipse, which are powerful full moons. They might perform a special prayer for transformation. Even without formal ritual, just following astrology regularly instills a mindset that looks for meaning rather than seeing life events as random. One might think, this challenge I'm having, what might the cosmos be signaling? Oh, Saturn is teaching me patience now. This doesn't remove free will or personal effort. Rather, it co-creates with a perceived divine timing. It can also ease existential anxiety. If you lose a job under tough transits, you might trust perhaps this is a necessary redirection. When Jupiter comes to my midheaven next year, maybe a better career opportunity will emerge. In short, astrology offers a cosmic perspective on everyday life, reminding us of an order beyond apparent chaos and fostering a sense of belonging in the universe. All these uses illustrate how astrology today is far more than newspaper horoscopes, though those have their place in sparking interest. It has become a versatile tool, part psychology, part spirituality, part coaching. Whether someone is seeking practical guidance, like when to start a business, emotional support, understanding a breakup through the stars' lens, or high spiritual insight, identifying soul purpose, astrology can meet them there. It's accessible, yet endlessly deep. Many find that what begins as a casual curiosity develops into a lifelong practice that grows with them. Astrology's beauty in modern practice is that it meets you where you are and evolves as you evolve. It can be used simply to pick a good wedding date, or it can be a meditation on the universe's consciousness. There is a saying, the stars incline, they do not bind. In practice, astrology is not about fatalistic reliance on fate. Rather, it's used to empower individuals to make better choices and to align with the flow of their destiny, turning what could be stumbling blocks into stepping stones. Astrological wisdom across spiritual traditions. Astrology's blend of celestial observation and spiritual interpretation has been embraced, and at times adapted, by numerous spiritual and religious traditions throughout history. While not every faith officially endorses astrology, within almost every major spiritual lineage there have been mystics or philosophers who acknowledged a connection between the stars and the divine plan. By integrating insights from various traditions, we gain a richer understanding of astrology's significance as a universal language of symbols. Hermeticism and Western esoteric traditions. Hermeticism, an ancient spiritual philosophical system attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, associated with the Egyptian god Thoth, is famous for the axiom as above, so below, as within, so without. This succinctly captures why astrology is spiritually valid in the Hermetic view. The Hermetic philosophy sees the universe as a great unity where the macrocosm, the universe at large, and the microcosm, the human being, reflect each other. Astrological correspondences were core to Hermetic and alchemical practices. Renaissance Hermeticists believed that each planet emitted astral rays that could affect health and temperament, which is why astrological timing was crucial in alchemy and magic. Planets were also linked to metals, for example, Sun, gold, Moon, silver, Mars, iron, etc., and days of the week. Hermetic magic often involved invoking planetary energies on their appropriate days/hours to consecrate talismans or perform healings. The Kabbalistic tree of life, in Jewish mysticism, later adopted by Hermetic Kabbalists, has spheres corresponding to planets and paths associated with zodiac signs, indicating how embedded astrology is in Western mystical symbolism. To a Hermetic practitioner, astrology is a divine science that unveils the signature of God in creation. The movements of stars are like the handwriting of the Creator, spelling out the evolution of the world and individual souls. By studying astrology, Hermeticists aim to become co-creators with the divine will. If you know the influences, you can harmonize your actions accordingly. Astrology is not meant to enthrall man, but to guide him, they'd say. Astrology is thus considered one of the three Hermetic arts, alongside alchemy and theurgy, all of which are meant to lead the seeker to greater wisdom and spiritual perfection. Vedic spirituality and Hindu beliefs. In India, Jyotish, Vedic astrology, is called a Vedanga, meaning it is literally an arm of the Veda, an extension of sacred knowledge. Hindu philosophy deeply interweaves karma, dharma, duty/righteous path, and the movements of celestial bodies. In Vedic thought, the planets, Navagraha, the 9 influencers including Sun, Moon, and lunar nodes Rahu/Ketu, are considered deities or at least instruments of the divine law of karma. They are not merely rocks in space. They are grahas, meaning grabbers or seizers. They seize us with certain energies at times in order to deliver the results of our past actions. Thus, if one is experiencing a tough Saturn period, it is understood as Saturn meting out a karmic lesson or debt that one's soul needs to address. Rather than seeing this negatively, Hindu tradition often encourages propitiating the planet deities through prayers, mantras, or charitable acts to mitigate difficulties. For example, someone undergoing a challenging Mars influence might be advised to chant the Hanuman Chalisa, a hymn to Lord Hanuman, who rules Mars, or to give food to soldiers or athletes on Tuesdays, Mars Day, as an act of charity, which spiritually aligns one with Mars' higher principles of strength and courage. Reincarnation and astrology are closely linked in Vedic spirituality. Your birth chart is seen as a snapshot of your prarabdha karma, portion of past karma chosen for this life. An experienced Vedic astrologer, Jyotishi, can thus discuss not only material aspects like career or marriage, but also the spiritual reasons behind certain life patterns. For instance, a strong 12th house, house of moksha, liberation, could indicate a soul that is nearing the end of its incarnational cycle, focusing on enlightenment. Such a person might have many losses in the material realm, but rich inner spiritual experiences. Vedic astrology also places emphasis on auspicious timing, muhurta. Hindu rituals, whether it's a wedding, starting construction of a house, or naming a child, are ideally done at astrologically favorable times. This reflects the belief in RTA, the cosmic order. By aligning human actions with the right cosmic moments, one attunes to the natural flow of the universe, dharma, and gains divine blessings. The integration is so complete that even deities in Hindu epics consult astrologers. There are stories of the gods themselves using astrology to time their battles against demons. All this demonstrates that in Vedic spirituality, astrology isn't just fortune-telling. It's part of living in harmony with one's karma and dharma, and ultimately a guide towards moksha, liberation, since by understanding one's karmic blueprint, one can better fulfill one's duties and learn one's lessons, paving the way for spiritual freedom. Taoism and Chinese cosmology. In Chinese spiritual thought, which blends Taoism, Confucianism, and folk traditions, the emphasis is on harmony between heaven, earth, and human, known as the three harmonies. Astrology in the Chinese context, including not just the well-known zodiac animals, but also systems like Ziwei Do Shu, Purple Star Astrology, or Bazi, for Pillars Astrology, is deeply linked with this quest for harmony. Taoism views the universe as a constant flow of qi energy, with two polarities, yin and yang, and 5 elemental phases, wuxing. Chinese astrology reflects these principles. Each zodiac sign year is assigned an element and yin or yang quality. For example, 2025 might be the year of the Yinwood snake, combining those influences. The idea is that time itself has qualities that can be in or out of balance, just like a person's body can have imbalances of heat/cold or dampness. An astrologer, often the same person was an expert in feng shui and medicine, would determine the energetic climate of a year or a person's birth and give advice for restoring balance. Taoist philosophy encourages flowing with the Tao, the way, meaning aligning with the natural order. If, for instance, your birth energy is predominantly yang fire, very hot, active, assertive, a Chinese astrologer might suggest ways to cultivate yin water energy to balance, perhaps advising certain meditation, adjusting diet, living near water, or even wearing specific colors or crystals. The spiritual goal here is equilibrium. When you are balanced internally, you're more attuned to the Tao and life unfolds more smoothly. Chinese astrology also carried a strong ethical component in its traditional use. Imperial astrologers would guide emperors on how to rule justly according to heaven's timing. A solar eclipse or a comet was often read as heaven's displeasure, meaning the emperor should correct his governance. This reflects the belief that heaven, symbolized by celestial events, and the affairs of humans, especially leaders, were directly connected. In everyday folk practice, birth astrologies, the Chinese zodiac sign system, are used to bless children, with certain charms to enhance their favorable traits or guard against weaknesses indicated by their sign, and to make life choices, like compatible signs in marriage or which years might be challenging, known as the 12-year cycle clashes. At its heart, Chinese spirituality sees time and destiny as a cyclical dance. The repetition of 60-year cycles, combining 12 animals with 5 elements, gives a sense that time is sacred and patterned, not linear and chaotic. Thus, knowing these patterns through astrology is a way to live wisely and reverently. It is a form of divination, but one that is less about personal ego desire. For example, will I be rich? And more about finding one's rightful place and way. How can I align my life with the flow of heaven and earth? In Taoist stories, even immortals and sages observe astrological omens, not to change fate, but to be in accord with fate, which is essentially the Tao. Sufism and Islamic mysticism. Islam as a religion has had an ambivalent stance on astrology. Orthodox teachings warn against trying to predict the future in ways that might bypass trust in God. However, in Islamic history and particularly in Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, the movements of the stars were often seen as signs, ayat, of Allah, not to be worshipped, but to be read for wisdom. The Quran itself contains passages that encourage believers to reflect on the stars as signs of God's creation for navigation, beauty, and timing. Many early Muslim scholars like al-Biruni and al-Ghazali reconciled astrology by differentiating between using it for understanding personality and cosmic order, which can be permissible, versus using it to claim knowledge of the unseen and absolute future, which is God's domain. In Sufi cosmology, the entire cosmos is an expression of the divine names and qualities. The 7 classical planets were sometimes associated with the 7 oft-repeated verses of the Quran's opening chapter, or with the 7 heavens in Islamic cosmology. Sufi mystics like Ibn Arabi took a profound interest in correspondences between letters, celestial spheres, and the inner self. For example, they would correlate certain Quranic letters or divine names with specific planets or zodiac signs, seeking to understand the spiritual energies at play. Astrology, in this sense, became a language to discuss the human's inner journey towards God. Each planet could represent a station, maqam, on the Sufi path. Saturn's trials might correlate with the station of patience, Venus's influence with the station of love, Mercury with wisdom or communication of divine knowledge, etc. by contemplating one's birth chart. A Sufi might frame their personal trials and gifts as part of their spiritual curriculum set by the divine. For instance, if someone had a strong Mars, a Sufi perspective could be, Allah has endowed you with the spiritual attribute of strength and jihad, inner struggle. Your task is to purify and direct that strength in service of the divine, not let it descend into anger or ego. In the poetry of Sufis like Rumi, we sometimes see astrological metaphors. Rumi speaks of being in the orbit of the beloved like planets around the sun, or the heart eclipsing the mind, etc., showing the cosmic mindset ingrained in that mysticism. Furthermore, Islamic civilization's contribution to astrology, preserving and enhancing Hellenistic astrology, was transmitted to Europe and influenced esoteric Christianity and Jewish Kabbalah. Thus, Sufi astrology, though not well known, is an example of how astrological symbolism can coexist with a monotheistic devotion. The stars are seen as obedient servants of the One, and by studying them, one does not contravene God's will, but rather marvels at God's intelligent design. Many Sufis ultimately say the true zodiac is within, 12 faculties of the soul, or that the true planets are the transformative forces orbiting the heart. The outer cosmos is a training mirror for the inner cosmos of the seeker. This aligns with that oft-repeated mystical insight. He who knows himself knows his Lord. Astrology is one of the tools for such self-knowledge. Indigenous cosmologies across Africa, the Americas, Australia, and Oceania, indigenous cultures each have unique star wisdom. While these may not resemble formal horoscopes, they share the astrological spirit of reading meaning in the heavens. For instance, the Navajo, Dine, in North America saw constellations as part of their story of creation. They have constellations like Father Sky and Mother Earth, and star people who place the stars in the sky. The timing of ceremonies is often aligned with certain seasonal stars. In Navajo tradition, if the stars are not in the proper position, a ceremony might be less effective, showing an understanding of right timing. Polynesian Hawaiians had a form of zodiac with 12 months named after constellations, and they believed people born under each month carried certain traits. Sounds akin to sun signs. The Maori of New Zealand consider the heliacal rising of the Pleiades, Matariki, as the start of the new year, a time laden with meaning and ancestral connection. Australian Aboriginal peoples have incredibly detailed star lore. For example, the Yolngu people see the Southern Cross as a stingray and the constellation of Orion as a canoe. Their visibility and movement through the seasons inform hunting and gathering cycles. Some Aboriginal stories convey moral or practical lessons tied to the stars, like "Don't be greedy" is taught through a story of a star that fell. In sub-Saharan Africa, certain tribes like the Dogon of Mali became famous for their advanced star knowledge. They have oral lore of the invisible companion star Sirius B, which baffled Western scientists. The Dogon integrate that knowledge into their spiritual mythology about creation coming from amphibious star beings, Namo, connected to Sirius, an example of cosmology bridging physical and spiritual worlds. Mayan astrology, as mentioned earlier, treated time itself as sacred and alive with meaning. Mayan priests meditated on the qualities of each day sign to guide their community spiritually. For instance, a day of the sign 9, Jaguar, was powerful for shamanic journeying and connecting with earth spirits, whereas a day of EB Road was good for communal harmony and healing. What unites these indigenous perspectives is a reverence for the sky as an extension of nature's spirit. The stars are often seen as ancestors or as the campfires of the souls in the sky. Thus, indigenous astrology is not about personal fortune, but about relationship, maintaining right relationship with the cosmos. Dances, songs, and rituals ensure that the community stays in sync with the celestial rhythms. In a way, these practices echo the purpose of formal astrology, to synchronize human life with the cosmos. It might be through storytelling instead of chart calculation, but the outcome is similar, providing context, meaning, and timing for human endeavors. Many contemporary indigenous peoples continue these traditions, and some are also learning cross-cultural astrology. For example, a Navajo astrologer might use Western astrology, but infuse it with Navajo philosophy. This cross-pollination enriches both sides, keeping astrology a living, evolving spiritual practice. New Age and modern esoteric thought. The New Age movement, from the mid-20th century onward, wholeheartedly embraced astrology, blending it with concepts like reincarnation, karma, channeling, and holistic healing. "We are entering the age of Aquarius" became a New Age slogan, reflecting the astrological idea of great cycles, 150-year ages corresponding to the Zodiac sign the spring equinox sunrise occurs in. Many New Agers see the coming or recent arrival of the Aquarian age as a time of spiritual awakening, technological advancement, humanitarian values, and breaking of old paradigms, fitting Aquarius themes. This broad, collective astrological concept fuels optimism that humanity is on the cusp of a higher consciousness shift. In personal terms, New Age spirituality often uses astrology alongside modalities like chakra balancing, auras, and crystals. For instance, someone might refer to their sun sign when talking about their aura color, or use the knowledge of their moon sign to choose which crystal to meditate with. Moon in Aries might choose a red jasper for grounding fiery emotions, etc. There's also a trend of incorporating psychological astrology, inspired by Jung, treating the chart as a map of the psyche, with potential for individuation. Astrology readings in New Age circles often sound like therapy sessions, focusing on personal empowerment and positive affirmation of one's path. Additionally, New Age astrologers often channel or intuit information beyond the math of the chart, blending psychic readings with astrology. Another hallmark of New Age astrology is its eclecticism. It's not unusual to see a practitioner draw from Western and Vedic techniques, include fixed stars, refer to archangels for each planet, mention Atlantis or starseed origins. Some believe certain people have souls incarnated from specific star systems, like Pleiades or Sirius, and they look for clues in the chart such as particular star alignments. The key theme is using astrology as one tool among many for healing and ascension. It's common to hear things like during your Pluto transit, do past life regression to clear old karma, and use amethyst to keep your vibration high. While traditionalists might find this non-rigorous, it serves a spiritual need for many, to feel that astrology is part of a holistic cosmic spirituality where everything is connected. Sound familiar? That's essentially the astrological worldview anyway. New Agers often emphasize free will within the framework of the chart. The chart shows tendencies, but through spiritual work, affirmations, energy healing, etc., one can transcend the lower manifestations and live out the higher octave of each placement. For example, you have Mars in challenging aspect. The lower vibration is anger and conflict. The higher is assertive courage for righteous causes. Focus your intent to manifest the higher. This perspective is quite empowering and aligns with the New Age ethos that we create our reality in cooperation with the universe. Finally, New Age thought has popularized some new astrological bodies and points, like asteroids. Chiron's prominence as the wounded healer archetype is huge in spiritual healing communities, and hypothetical points, for example, Lilith, the dark moon, symbolizing the divine feminine's suppressed side. These enrich the symbolic tapestry, letting people explore facets like sacred feminine/masculine balance, karma, south node, and dharma, north node, etc. in depth. Christian mysticism and Western Christianity. Traditional Christianity largely separated itself from astrology, especially post-medieval times, because of concerns about determinism and associating with pagan practice. Yet, the very birth of Jesus is intertwined with astrology. The Magi, wise men, from the East essentially acted as astrologers, interpreting a star, likely an astronomical conjunction or celestial event, as signaling the coming of a great king. This story indicates that in the biblical worldview, celestial events can herald divine interventions, though orthodox interpretation is that God placed the star as a unique miracle, rather than endorsing astrology at large. During early Christianity, many church fathers were actually knowledgeable about astrology, but debated its use. St. Augustine argued against the idea that stars cause human fate, but even he didn't deny celestial influence entirely. He believed stars were markers of time that God could use as signals. In the medieval period, astrology was taught in Christian universities as long as one remembered that the stars impel, they do not compel. A Christian mystic might see the beauty of God's order in the planetary spheres. For instance, Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, 14th century, places each planet as a sphere of heaven or purgatory reflecting specific virtues or vices. In esoteric Christian groups like the Rosicrucians or the Theosophists, who were often Christian-influenced, astrology plays a significant role. The Rosicrucian cosmoconception by Max Handel integrates astrology with Christian eschatology, suggesting that Christ's cosmic role is akin to the sun, the spiritual light of the world, and that humanity's evolution can be traced through zodiacal ages. Some streams of Christian Kabbalah align the 12 tribes of Israel with the 12 zodiac signs and the archangels, implying that God's people collectively encompass the whole zodiac, i.e., all types of spiritual gifts. In modern times, Christian astrology is a niche but present field. There are Christian astrologers who frame it as seeing God's clock and use it pastorally, for counseling individuals or choosing auspicious times for church events, etc. They avoid anything that smacks of fatalism or idolatry of planets, instead emphasizing divine providence, working through celestial synchronicity. They may cite Genesis 1 verse 14, where God creates lights in the sky for signs and for seasons, implying stars do serve as signs. In a mystical sense, Christian contemplation of the cosmos, like that done by monks who are also astronomers, can be very much like astrological reverence. They see the heavens as declaring the glory of God, Psalm 19, and seek to align with His creation. Some even tie the Book of Revelation imagery to astrological symbols. For example, the woman clothed with the sun with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars, a clear zodiacal motif. Thus, while publicly astrology might have been frowned upon in Christian orthodoxy, beneath the surface it colored a lot of art, literature, and thought. The stained glass windows of medieval cathedrals often include zodiac signs and planetary gods, not as objects of worship, but as part of God's complex creation. Those cathedrals themselves were frequently aligned to solstices or equinoxes. The Christian Hermeticist Johannes Kepler, one of history's great astronomers, actually practiced astrology. He cast horoscopes for a living and believed that the harmony of the planets, what he called the music of the spheres, was literally the voice of God in mathematical form. Kepler attempted to reform astrology to be more empirical, but he still thought planetary cycles coincided with earthly events under God's orchestration. In modern mystical Christianity or New Thought, like Unity Church, etc., you'll sometimes find openness to astrology as a tool for personal insight, so long as it's used with prayer and inner guidance. After all, if one believes God created the cosmos with order, then astrology could be seen as studying the divine order in action. Across all these traditions, Hermetic, Vedic, Taoist, Sufi, Indigenous, New Age, Christian mystic, a common thread emerges: the belief that the cosmos is a living, meaningful system and that humans are a part of that greater whole. Astrology is a kind of sacred art or science that helps decode the patterns linking heaven and earth. Each tradition might use a different mythological lens or emphasis: angels, karma, chi, etc., but they all treat the positions of celestial bodies as significant and purposeful. This cross-cultural validation can be heartening to the modern astrologer or enthusiast. It suggests that astrology taps into a perennial wisdom, an understanding that likely arose as soon as early humans looked up at the starry sky in wonder. Closing thoughts: the invitation of astrology. Astrology, at its heart, is far more than a method of prediction or personality analysis. It is a living bridge between the human and the cosmic. It says to us, you are not isolated or insignificant. You are woven into the grand tapestry of the universe. The same forces that spin the galaxies are at play in the chambers of your heart. Throughout history, our ancestors used this language of stars to navigate both sea and soul, to time the planting of crops and the unfolding of spiritual rites. In modern days, we too can use astrology as a compass, not a rigid fate decoder, but a gentle guide pointing out the seasons of our growth, the weather patterns of our psyche, and the vast potential we carry. Embracing astrology from a metaphysical perspective means viewing life itself as enchanted and meaningful. Every moment becomes ripe with symbolism. A tough day might coincide with a testing Saturn influence, urging resilience. A chance meeting during a Venus transit might open our hearts to new love or friendship. A sudden change under Uranus might liberate us from stagnation. Rather than seeing these as random ups and downs, we can read them as dialogues with the divine. In this way, astrology can enrich one's spiritual practice irrespective of religious affiliation. You might still pray to God, meditate, or do yoga, but with an added awareness that the cosmos is responsive and communicative. Astrology also fosters compassion and tolerance. We realize everyone has their own cosmic curriculum. The friend who always seems impulsive and brash? Perhaps a strong Aries/fire signature. They're learning about courage and selfhood. The sibling who worries constantly and plans everything? Maybe heavy Virgo/earth influence, mastering responsibility and service. This doesn't box them in. Rather, it helps us not judge them by our own nature. We start to appreciate the diversity of soul types, much like biodiversity in nature. Just as the zodiac has 12 unique signs, humanity has many different but valid ways of being. Astrology at its best teaches us to honor our differences and see how each person contributes a necessary note to the cosmic symphony. For the individual seeker, studying one's own birth chart is often a profound journey of self-love and acceptance. You see written in symbolic form the outline of your life story, your struggles and triumphs, your quirks and talents, and you recognize that it all has purpose. Many people feel a deep affirmation when they discover their chart reflects experiences they thought were theirs alone. It's like the universe saying, "I see you. I understand what you're going through. Here's why, and here's how it might benefit your growth." That sense of being seen by something as grand as the cosmos can be healing in itself. It reminds us that we are children of the universe, cradled under the sky since birth. In today's fast-paced, technology-driven world, astrology offers a chance to slow down and align with natural rhythms. Watching the moon wax and wane, noticing the shift when the sun enters a new sign each month, observing the retrograde of a planet, these draw our attention back to the present and the eternal simultaneously. We become mindful of cycles, personal cycles like our Saturn returns, generational cycles like Pluto's long transit through a sign, and even world eras like the transition into Aquarius. It gives perspective. Troubles that seem overwhelming might be just a passing cloud in the context of a larger cycle. Joys that arrive are appreciated as part of a cycle too, moments of grace that reflect celestial harmonies at play. Ultimately, astrology invites us to live in relationship with the universe. It's a reminder that we have allies in the heavens, be they the guiding light of Jupiter's wisdom or the deep healing of a Pluto transformation. By honoring these archetypal forces, we honor parts of ourselves and the sacred in the world around us. It is a dance, our free will moving in step with cosmic influences. When we dance in sync, life feels purposeful and connected. In this inviting, thoughtful tone, the journey through astrology becomes much more than learning about sun signs or daily horoscopes. It becomes a spiritual adventure, one where each of us can play astrologer to our own life, decoding the signs from above and aligning with our highest path below. Whether you're just gazing curiously at the night sky or deeply charting your transits, astrology reminds you of one simple truth. You are part of something infinitely larger, a cosmos filled with meaning, and its story lives in you as much as you live within it. May this ancient cosmic wisdom inspire you to look up with wonder, look within with wisdom, and walk your path with the stars as loving companions. If you're looking for a guide to mastering tarot, we warmly welcome you to our Academy of Astrology. On our website, you'll find a wide range of courses where you can learn everything about astrology, as well as explore other esoteric arts and spiritual tools. We truly hope you found this episode helpful and enjoyed listening. Feel free to share it with your friends and family so they too can begin their transformation. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and stay connected with us. Thank you for watching. We wish you oceans of abundance, radiant health, overflowing wealth, and true love.